guys, welcome back to my channel. And today we are going to be talking about a topic that I never thought I would ever talk about. I never thought that I would become well acquainted with this topic, and definitely not one that I ever thought that I would go public with. However, I really feel the need to go into it. So, little bit of warning, if postpartum depression, any talk of depression, any talk of anxiety is bothersome to you, that's what this video is going to be about, postpartum depression and anxiety. So you have been warned. Can we take a moment to just appreciate the majesty of this mug? Like my friend Amy, who I used to cosplay with, sent me it when she found out I was pregnant, and she sent me a bunch of baby stuff. She also sent me this amazing mug. So Amy, thank you, I love you. This is my like epic coffee drinking mug when I want to feel special. On to the more serious topic at hand. My pregnancy was 95% perfect. I had a scare about 20 weeks in when we thought that I might have a VCI, cord insertion, which meant that there was a possibility that the placenta the umbilical cord wasn't attached to the placenta in the proper way, and there could be, it could detach, which would cause internal bleeding, hemorrhaging, and the death of the baby. Went to a high-risk doctor, cleared me, all was good. Fast forward to labor and delivery. Literal textbook labor and delivery with a little bit of a hiccup, and the only hiccup being pretty normal. My son was sunny side, and I had to do some extra yoga, not yoga, but moves on a peanut ball to get him to spin around so that it would be easier for him to come out. And with that, we're pretty certain he broke my tailbone. I'm still recovering. It's getting a lot better, but sitting again on hard surfaces hurts a little bit still. Stings down in my butt just a little bit. When he was delivered, we found out, oh, hey, you did have a marginal cord insertion. So a marginal cord insertion would have meant, if we had known this, I would have been induced on the day that I gave birth for a normal vaginal delivery. And that is just to make sure that the baby didn't quite get to full term size. He was 6 pounds, 15 ounces. So they think had I gone full term, he would have been like 7'5", something like that. And that would have put more stress and pressure on the cord. However, if it had been a VCI, the labor would have been very high risk. I would have been very lucky to go through that entire process without any problems. And more than likely, if they had known, if it was a VCI, I would have had to be scheduled for a cesarean, same thing, 2 weeks beforehand. So we dodged a bullet with that one. Baby boy was perfectly fine and healthy, minus jaundice, which is pretty normal for babies, and we went home. Because I had such a easy pregnancy and painless labor and delivery, it never once crossed my mind that postpartum depression or anxiety could ever be a thing, which it should have, because I have PMDD, which is premenstrual depressive disorder before my periods, and I also have general anxiety disorder. So another thing that happened during this time was, because I am on medication for my anxiety and my PMDD, more actually for my PMDD than I am for my anxiety. Because I was pregnant, they told me to take this medication every other day because it's not going to be harmful for the baby. It's not going to bother him. Just take it every other day. Did that. The day that my water broke was supposed to be the night that I took it. So I'd already had 2 days without it. going to the hospital with all the intensity that happened and just being ready. I had the medication with me, but I never took it. I just totally zoned out, baby bliss, just forgot about taking my medication. And so I was off it for about 5 days, which equates to basically going off your SSRI cold turkey. That was a mistake on my part. I don't know whether or not my postpartum depression and anxiety would have been as bad as it was if I had still been consistently taking my Zoloft like I should have been. And I wasn't. So that was my fault. However, I will say one warning sign that I got that things might be a little bit rocky coming home was the day before we came home. My husband went home. I know I just said home like a million times. My husband went back to our place to get everything ready to check on our cats. We only lived 10 minutes away from the hospital. And I cried for 30 minutes straight. No reason. I wasn't scared. I had a little bit of anxiety because new mom and, you know, my baby's under bilirubin lights, so I only get to see him once every 3 hours. I was recovering. My tailbone was excruciatingly painful. Couldn't sit up quickly at all. It took me about 5 minutes to go from like a laying position to sitting. Lady parts were totally fine. My tailbone was not. And I also had some high blood pressure that they were monitoring for post-eclampsia, but it never amounted to anything. It was literally just my anxiety causing my high blood pressure. So, and it wasn't even that high. It was like 130s, 140s. When we got home, all was fine. I was relieved to be home. I was happy to be home in our own space. Nurses wouldn't be waking us up. Our baby was healthy. He was great. And that night, he threw up, as babies do, but he threw up through his nose and his mouth. Now, he didn't seem too offended by it at all. And subsequently, there's only been a couple of times when it's ever bothered him. He hasn't thrown up through his nose more than like, I think, a handful of times, but that's the way that they breathe. As babies, as newborns, they only know how to breathe through their nose. The only time they breathe through their mouth is when they're crying, and they aren't even aware of it, kind of, sort of. So that sent me into a panic, and it started everything. That night was the first night home. I cried afterwards, heavily, just holding my baby, like, oh my gosh, thank God he's okay. Kind of not unknowing that that's not an unusual thing for newborns to do, especially if they're a little bit reflexy. And that night I stayed up all night and watched him sleep, making sure he was breathing, making sure he wouldn't stop breathing. I hated having him swaddled, but I wanted him swaddled because we found out pretty quickly that he wanted to sleep on his side as a newborn. And I was like, you're being swaddled, because swaddling seemed to stop him from moving to his side. So that was a struggle. And from there, that first week of being home was absolute hell. I was told when you get home from the hospital, you're gonna cry because you're new mom, you're emotional, you're dealing with new hormones, your hormones go all out of whack. You're scared because, you know, you just left the hospital where everybody was taking such good care of you and your baby, and then all of a sudden it's like up to you and your husband alone, and it's a lot. And everybody gets baby blues. That's what we were told, you know. This was not baby blues and is not baby blues. One of the reasons why I haven't posted as much in the last 3 months was because I was literally focusing on getting myself back to full mental capacity. That first week, I cried more than I had ever cried in my entire life combined. I was so sad and worried over the dumbest things with my baby. Like, literally, if I leave him alone in the room, he's gonna die. Parents always have the SIDS fear. I had it so bad. You know, it was horrifying. And I know I'm not the only parent who has that. But mine was to the nth degree, where the third day that he was home, my husband had to take the bassinet on his side of the bed so I could at least get some sleep, because he said, I will wake up if anything happens. I wake up if I hear him. You get some rest. And we had zero help because we underestimated a newborn. I underestimated that I would need help right away because I never planned for postpartum. 2, COVID. So the Rona had prevented a lot of people from coming down right away, travel restrictions, all of that. And 3, we wanted the first month with our baby wrapped in this cocoon of absolute newborn bliss, which turned into a nightmare very, very quickly. I had never felt so low. And I was worried about things I had zero control over, which you do as you have anxiety. People who have anxiety know this. But it's more so you realize when you have a child, they depend on you for everything. And they're helpless. And this is how fragile life is. As someone who never expected to have any kids, who was extremely blessed and thankful that I have my son, it was overwhelming. It was like this mama bear instinct just took over, and I was like, whoa, I was not prepared for this. A girl was not ready. And the overwhelming emotions that come with that did a number on me. I was FaceTiming with my mom, my sister, multiple times a day, sobbing. I cried so hard, my eyes almost swelled shut. I felt incapacitated. I wanted to take care of my baby. I wanted to hold him. I wanted to do skin to skin. I wanted to bond with him. I wanted to change his diaper. But I have this excruciating pain in my backside from my tailbone being probably broken. And 2, I'm terrified. And that makes me think, and my doctor and I agree, I had more of postpartum anxiety than the depression, which I'm super thankful for. But a lot of people talk about postpartum depression. And, you know, I watched so many videos. Shout out to Raw Beauty Christie. Thank you for sharing your story, because I cannot tell you how many times I watched and rewatched your videos, thanking God that you are there, that to let us know that we are not alone in feeling the way that you felt. And totally 100% could relate to your fears, your concerns, your panic, your worry, everything. I watched those religiously to remind myself that this isn't just me, which is why I wanted to make this video. I never once imagined postpartum would happen to me. I was at a higher risk for it because of my previous, anxiety and PMDD, but I never thought about it. Everything was perfect. Why would it go wrong, so to speak, right at the very end? Technically the end of the pregnancy and the beginning of the new life. The first 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks were absolute blur. My husband was amazing. He stepped up and did everything I couldn't. He let me sleep when I needed sleep desperately. And my mother-in-law actually came down on the fourth week of having him home. So when he was around a month old, she came down with my father-in-law for a week, and then he went home, and then she stayed for another 2 weeks, which was amazing. It was amazing. It was amazing to have a mom there who knew the ins and the outs, who had been through it before, who had done the song and dance, and she gave us both, my husband and I, a break. We can go take naps. Grandma's got it, you know, that sort of thing. We had such a nice time, such a nice breather, such a nice break. And then in May, my parents came down for about a week. And then in June, my brother and sister-in-law came down for about a week, because my sister-in-law is due in like 3 weeks. So we're having boys in the same year. It's really exciting. But just realizing my mistake, and you don't know when you're a first-time mom, but I really should have had someone there at the ready, on call, to come down to help. Because as a new mom, my doctor explained to me that we want to do it all. New mom's syndrome. And by the time the second one comes around, which probably won't happen for us, but they're like, okay, do you take the kid? Where's my food? Who's gonna let me nap? Anybody want to massage my feet? You know, the kid's fine. Second baby rolls around and you're like, okay, you take him. I'm gonna go get some sleep. So, but you don't know that when you're a new mom. And babies make the weirdest noises. Like, they sound like they're dying all the time in the first couple of months. And then the noises get like cute and intentional, and you're like, oh. But at the beginning, you're like, are you dying? Is your nose blocked? Are you choking? What was that? And it's terrifying. For me, I am pretty much out of the majority of the postpartum anxiety. There's still a few things that get me, but most of the time I am 100% good. The depression, with the postpartum depression, has been a little bit harder on the times when I have my PMDD, because spoiler alert, when you stop breastfeeding, your period comes back faster. So, got that back. She's back, and it makes it a little bit harder. And postpartum anxiety is overwhelming. It's a fear I have never felt before, and when the depression would hit the wave, very rarely would the depression waves hit, but when they did, I would sob, and I just felt so sad for no reason. I mean, I knew the reason, but it's like there is no reason. It's just how your body's reacting, and it feels horrible. And you feel horrible because I felt like a burden to my husband. Okay, I'm the mom. I have a newborn. I'm supposed to be taking care of this little thing 24/7 in my mind. And he shouldn't have to be taking care of both of us. But he did, and he was amazing. So don't beat yourself up because you're not a burden. This just happens. If you're experiencing it, have experienced it, it's not normal, but it happens a lot more than we think. Because I made a post on my Instagram about postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, and I got so many comments, so many DMs from people that I knew who had kids who said, yep, girl, I know how you're feeling. I have been there so bad. I have done that, bought that t-shirt and burned it. Let me know if you need anything, because I'm here to talk. So many people came forward, and I'm so thankful for that. And one of my best friends down here, she went through it. We had no idea that she had postpartum depression and anxiety, and she came over like a little mother hen, and she scooped my son up, and she's like, okay, you go shower and pump, and then you're gonna take a nap. And when my husband got home from doing whatever he was doing, I think he was on a shoot for something, she said the same thing. Okay, go shower and go take a nap. And she stayed until like 9:30 at night and just let us sleep. And this is before my mother-in-law had gotten there. And the moment she walked in the door, I like burst out crying, just tears down my face. And she hugged me so hard and she's like, "It's okay. It's going to be okay." And I was like, "Thank you. Oh my gosh." But you need that support. And I totally underestimated the necessity for that support. It's gotten a lot better. Everybody told me once the first 2 months pass, it'll get better. And it has. It really, really did. It was like the 2.5 month mark, something magical happened. My son started to like sleep longer, and then by 3 months, he was sleeping through the entire night. So that was amazing. And sleep is I'll just say this, if you're going through postpartum, sleep, shower, food, and water. Shower. I cannot tell you how wonderful showering once a day felt. It was an escape. It was a place where I could release like my emotions, but it was also calming and warm and relaxing and soothing, and kind of just let me get my mind back, taking all my thoughts back into captivity and sleep. They say sleep when the baby sleeps. It's hard to do that as a first-time mom in those first couple of months because you're so on edge. You're like, I gotta be awake. I have to watch him. But eventually you learn. You learn how to sleep with him or her. And that gets easier. But take as many naps as you can. Take advantage of as many naps as you can. Because I was running on empty for so many days. I had nothing. And my milk supply was suffering for it, as when I was breastfeeding him. So definitely do that. And also eat. Because I wasn't eating when I first came home as much as I should have been. I was just eating to survive. I wasn't eating to make my milk supply thrive and stuff like that. So I was getting anxious about the milk supply coming in and everything. And that's another video for another time after this. I'll probably record that one right after this, now that we're on the topic of postpartum and breastfeeding. But eat and drink so much water that is healthy. Don't like water toxify yourself, but definitely drink what you need to satisfy the breastfeeding and yourself, because your baby can become dehydrated through you. And eat because your baby needs the nutrients, and trust me, that stuff will fall off. Breastfeeding's the best exercise regime I ever did. So postpartum was hard. It's been the hardest thing that I've ever had to go through with a newborn baby. Hardest thing I've ever had to go through. Going through it with postpartum anxiety and depression. Exhausting. But we got through it. And I survived. As my sister told me, no one's ever really died of exhaustion. No new mom has ever died of exhaustion. So you're going to be tired. You're going to have sleepless nights. Baby's going to be fussy. Baby's going to need to eat multiple times. But you can do it. And I didn't believe her at the time. It felt like when I was in it, it was going to go on for eternity. I felt like I was never going to feel normal again. I felt like I was just going to go insane for the rest of my life. My husband would leave me, take the baby because I was not right, and find somebody better. But those are all just stupid thoughts that you have when you have depression and anxiety. So that is my postpartum story. It was intense, terrifying, overwhelming, and I would never wish it on anyone, but I am stronger for it. And I'm okay with that. So if you have any questions, ask down below. and I will see you in the next one. One love, you guys.